Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the June 8th, 2023 Board of Selectmen meeting here at Town Hall and also virtually. And as always, we'll start the meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 25th, 2023?
Lauren Rabin, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor? Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thank you. Okay, going on to the updates. We had a late ribbon cutting yesterday for Art 06870. My friend Mike Manning has opened up an art studio in Old Greenwich. And I'll be doing lots of events there over the coming years, coming months, I should say. So if you get a chance, stop by there. It's at 260R in the back of 260R Sound Beach Avenue, right in the back of the Chase Bank. Tonight, or later today, we're going to, at 4:30, we're going to be honoring retiring members of boards, committees, and commissions here in town, and this in the meeting room here. So if you can, stop by and say thank you. 6:30, there's the annual Audubon event. And at 8 o'clock, we're going to proclaim that today Jerry Catrone Day at the Sound Beach Fire Station tonight at 8 o'clock. Jerry is celebrating his 50th year of volunteering at the Sound Beach Fire Department. So we want to say thank you to Jerry and salute him with his own day. Next week and the week after, we're going to be celebrating on Fridays at 11 o'clock at the Hamel Rink Safety Week. With the Red Cross. So if they've never been to one of those are fun. We did them by Zoom the last few years, I believe, but we'll be back in person. And then 7 o'clock tomorrow, we'll have the annual River House event over in Coscott. Saturday at 6:30, there is an event for the Greenwich Alliance for Education, and there's be a proclamation there at the Teen Center. Then we have our Sunday, we have our Greenwich High School Parade of Champions. I think we're up to 10 or 11 state championship teams this year. So we got to be leading a league in the state when it comes to that. And then we also have one national champion too. So Titletown CT is certainly Greenwich this year. So we're very, very proud of them. And let's see. And we have the graduation for Greenwich High School on the 15th. That's getting close next week. And the Friday the 16th, we're going to do the Land Trust will have their annual event at the Farmstead up on Round Hill Road. Later that night will be Mark Jaffe night at the Italian Center in Stamford. Mark's retiring from the Children's Learning Center in Stamford. And then on Saturday, the 17th, it's Freemasonry Day here. We'll do a proclamation at Christ Church at 12 o'clock in the loft. And then we're doing a ribbon cutting for Vega Music, a new business, on June 22nd at 6 o'clock at 37 West Putnam Avenue, right near the Knights of Columbus. And I wanted to announce also Sam Barisi is our Employee of the Month. We'll be announcing that officially on Tuesday at the department head meeting. So congratulations to Sam. And I know we got a lot of calls about the signs that were put outside this week, and I just would caution people about posting things online and accusing people, because we've seen in the past people can put up signs and make it look like someone else did it, and then we find out later that it was a setup. So I'm not saying that happened here, but just be very careful about that. There was no crime committed. It falls under the First Amendment, however distasteful and cowardly it was, but the police were contaminated a few times, so that doesn't happen. But there was no crime to prosecute other than just to know who did it. And the police are still looking at it, but this one's proving a little harder to find out who did it. But be careful. And again, that type of behavior is not wanted, nor should be tolerated here in town. But again, for those who were calling us and saying to arrest somebody, you can't. That was certainly, it falls under the First Amendment. So be mindful of that, but also be respectful of everybody. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lauren.
Thanks, Fred. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Janet. Good morning, Ken and Jenny. So thanks for mentioning today's acknowledgement of our outgoing members from boards, commissions, and committees. It was an annual event, and COVID kind of put it on pause, so we had about 60 people that have retired from boards, commissions, and committees. Although they won't all be here today, we do have some acknowledgements and certificates to acknowledge their contribution to making our town run so smoothly. I wanted to announce Free Music Fridays are going to be back. So Kenny and Jenny. Ken and Jenny, I have some information for you for Fred's Community Connections
They're not
tomorrow.
singing though, right? I thought you may be the first act.
They're going to be in the evenings from 5 to 7 at Greenwich Commons. We'll have some food trucks. Our first event is on June 23rd, so 2 weeks from tomorrow, with Neil Spritzer. But we'll have more information going out into the public, and looking forward to having folks participate in that. We've been very busy as the Central Middle School Building Committee, but I know that the MI is on the agenda, and I am sure our chair, Tony Turner, can do a much better job than I updating the Board of Selectmen on where we're at with the cost estimates we received for the conceptual design and the latest thinking from our vendors, Turner Construction, SLAM, the architect, and CSGR owners rep. And that's my update.
Thanks, Lauren. Good morning, Janet.
Good morning, and thank you. I'm just going to say as well, we're all distraught by the signs that appeared on Town Hall property Monday, less than a day after the wonderful community showing for Greenwich Pride. Clearly, the person or people behind these signs did not attend Pride Day, which was all about love. So I'd like to quote one of the day's organizers. What struck me most about this weekend was that all of our elected officials from both sides of the aisle came to show their support for the Greenwich LGBTQ+ community on Sunday. On Monday, those officials were given the opportunity to show their support again, and they did it, more forcefully even. My takeaway is that this ugly gesture on Town Hall truly backfired. It only strengthened the support for the LGBTQ+ community and made that support even louder. You all have shown us that you stand with us in the good times and the bad, and that to me is what Greenwich is all about. And in another demonstration of all the good in Greenwich, I'm looking forward to today's appreciation of outgoing town board, commission, and committee members. I wish to thank them as well as all the town's continuing volunteers who do so much of our governing work. And of course, future volunteers who will continue this work. So on that note, a friend of mine suggested we host a volunteer fair at Town Hall where potential volunteers can meet with representatives from our 22 boards, commissions, and committees to learn more about ways they might serve our town. I think this is a great idea, and I'd like to consider it further with my colleagues and the Selectmen's Nominating Advisory Committee. So I'm going to miss Sunday's parade. I have a family commitment, but I am going to be cheering remotely. So thank you, and I fingers crossed for good weather. And I'm also looking forward to high school graduation on the 15th. And lastly, I'm looking ahead at our calendar and note that Juneteenth is celebrated on Monday, June 19th. I don't believe we have a town proclamation planned, so I'd like to propose that we have one. If July 4th is about this nation's independence, then June 19th is about our freedom, and I think it's worth celebrating. Just let me know, and I'd be happy to take this on. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Janet. Yes, one was issued. We did. It went, yeah, a parish in Bridgeport asked for it, and we did one last year for them, and we sent it up to them. And I think, Jenny, did we post it?
No, we're going to post it today.
Yeah. So it was done.
But we don't have one for Greenwich.
Yeah.
We don't have an event planned
Well,
for
we could
Greenwich.
still use that one there. I mean, I don't know if the wording, I have to check the wording.
tweak it a bit.
Yeah, it may have to be tweaked a little bit, because we
could
did
we-
it last year.
Could we still, let's say noon on the 19th, could we still?
Yeah, let's double check the calendar, but yeah, that's
I mean,
fine. I don't want to
right,
commit
we
to
could-
something and not be
No,
here.
we can.
How about you guys?
I'm sure we can find a time on our
Yeah.
calendar that,
Talk offline.
I'm happy to talk offline, but, we've got enough notice now that we could let people know and mark it in some,
Yeah.
meaningful way.
Yeah, I don't think
right.
it would be, the language would be tweaked that much, so it'll be, yeah, be easy. Thank you. And then also, I like the idea of a volunteer fair, so we could talk about that offline, I guess.
Exactly.
But thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Going on to old business, we only have two and then one under new business. So the old business is the pledge letter for the Glenville Dog Park. That's a second read. I don't know if Adam is here with us. But I will.
He should accept the invitation to join the panel online.
Okay. I will say that we've received a lot of feedback, mostly very positive, and I've also spoke to many people in town who have stopped me and didn't send an email, who were very, very supportive of it. A couple people and a couple friends, and it was I think overwhelmingly in support of it. But a couple people had questions, the same type of questions we heard back in 2000 and 2005 when we did the first dog park, which is traffic concerns, and Glenville especially had a concern about parking. And so certainly there's not going to be any more parking added. I know as a dog lover, as you know, I probably won't visit it because it's a neighborhood dog park. And just like Grass Island, people will drive there, but it's a little bit different. But one friend in the neighborhood said, I'm okay with it, but what if people from across the border just come here and it gets inundated? And I responded that Portchester has a very nice dog park. It's big. So I don't think they're going to leave one neighborhood to come to another one. I think this is more for the people on the western side of town, in keeping with our plan to have one in the center, which we do, one on the western side and one on the eastern side, just for people to have an official dog park. It's used as a dog park kind of already for many years, but it doesn't look very nice, and we wanted to actually make it look a little bit nicer, all without taxpayer dollars. And again, no traffic will be added, and people will see the parking that's down below where the Civic Center is. It may be full, and so again, people are going to quickly find out that it's not going to be a huge destination. But whenever you propose something, you're going to get reactions. Again, this one had more positive than the first one, way more. But we listen to everything. We certainly want to address every concern, and the traffic. I don't see it being an issue at all, but we're certainly looking at everything and making sure that the neighborhood, which this is for, is not disturbed in any way. But people do use it now as a dog park. So, Adam, I don't know if you can unmute.
Unmuted.
Good morning, Adam. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for joining us again. There you are. Thanks. You visited us 2 weeks ago, and we said that we do first reads just to get some feedback. And this one got a lot, and there was I think a lot of excitement about it. The few that had concerns I just mentioned were about parking. And we want to make sure that the Hawthorne there, where that little strip is, there's only so many spaces there anyway. But we'll work with GPD and DPW, make sure that that's not abused. But certainly, there's not much else they can do there. It's mainly going to be a walking one, unless they want to park in those few spaces or down below. And those spaces, sometimes if there's something going on the field, there's not going to be much room there anyway. So. But that's what our feedback is, and I'll let my colleagues, I know they've seen a lot of it too, so I'll let them make comments and ask questions if they have any questions.
I think we were still looking, I think, for some of the detail as to what exactly will be kind of added and changed. I think verbally we spoke about it, so it's not going to be, that fourth fence to fence it in, benches, things of that nature. I think for me personally, I know a lot of people are supportive of it, but just didn't have that level of detail. It's not going to prevent me from voting for it, but I think we need that information. And the thought about the parking, there's parking on both sides of Western Greenwich Civic Center. So I know somebody, quoted how many spaces. There's also parking across the street near the American Legion building. And Stop and Shop is exiting, so that's going to open up, and I'm very sad about that. That's going to open up some more parking. I know it's a little bit more of a walk, but dogs like walks.
Well, we hope that there's a new tenant there, hopefully at some point. I've reached out to the owner there, I haven't heard back yet, but, so I don't want to count on that for that. But certainly, there's not much going to be added, only that the three fences that are now there, it's a chain link fence. So the idea is to keep that, but put nice landscaping around, kind of hide it, and put like a white picket fence to close it in. Some benches on the inside. Adam mentioned maybe a fire hydrant in the middle, which would be kind of fun for the dogs. And lots of flowers and plantings and things like that. And a sign, tastefully done in the front there. We even talked about beyond the dog park, there's a sidewalk that goes from Hawthorne down to the Civic Center. And we talked about possibly bricking that. And this is not going to have nothing to do with this. The money has been pledged for the park. But this would be to go into something that could fund the park or the maintenance for other things. So, and it would make it look nicer because the sidewalks probably had seen better days too. So there's lots of ideas, but it's not going to be anything added and no structures or anything like that. It's basically beautifying what's there and maybe even adding a couple trees, but it is wooded there anyway, and there are some trees. So, but can we get for people to, is there anything up online yet, Ken?
No, we've not received anything from Joe.
Okay.
So that, yeah, I was going to say, I have some questions as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lauren, and the floor is yours, Janet.
So like Lauren, I would like more information. I think there's been questions, yes, about exactly where this park will be and what the design is. I think there's some confusion about what exactly our vote is right now, that it's just the pledge and not
To accept the pledge.
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that that's been conveyed to the community well. So I think on all of those counts, I would not personally be ready to vote today. And spoiler alert, I think when we do vote, I will be abstaining simply because, as you say, this is a neighborhood dog park. This is not like Grass Island where the community kind of comes together from outside. And so just symbolically, I would want, given that this will be going to the RTM, I would want to give my vote to District 9. Because I think that is the constituency that would have the greatest interest in this matter.
Sure, yeah, that, well, within your rights. Certainly, it's got to come from this board anyway, so I'm not only happy to vote, I'm a very big supporter of this, obviously, and it's to accept the pledge, but also the details have to be worked out anyway. Nothing's being added there. As I said, it's being beautified, enhanced also for safety reasons. But there's not really much else on the outside that's going to be added to it. So, and then there's no question about where it's going. We know where it's going. It's going in the corner.
But if we could work out the details and make that clearer, the three of us, far better than to hand it over to a 230-member RTM to try to work out those details.
Well, by the time they get it, it's going to be, details will be out probably in weeks, not months, because they're going to get this,
Until September.
Yeah, probably in September. So, I was hoping that this would have been up already. So I'll talk to Joe and get the rendering up there. But it's not like a whole city block. It's just basically this little corner dog park that's, people said, why can't we just have this officially? We've been using it for years. It's not bothering anybody. It's just basically for the, and then we have, a great business like Pet Pantry and Adam coming forward to help us do this. I don't think there's any reason to delay it right now with a vote. So I'm ready to vote on it now.
We have some members of the public, I believe, on Zoom who want to speak about this.
Yeah, there's a couple people that had some questions about the parking, and so again, we've addressed that. We'll keep addressing that. So we'll listen to everybody, but I'm definitely ready to vote now. So, But Adam, and do you want to add anything?
Nope. We're here to help support the community in any way we can, and we'll go through the process as discussed by you guys and set on your timeline, but we're ready, willing, and able to help support the dog park.
No, we're grateful for that, and we thank you.
I believe we have 4 speakers online, if we'd like to recognize them.
Okay. Okay.
I think we speak with Joanna.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time and allowing us to join. As somebody who actually lives in the neighborhood, I live on the corner of Grey Rock and Hawthorne Street North. Also, I'm a dog lover. I have a Vizsla, a very active dog, as everyone knows who has a dog. And I'm also a mother of an almost 2-year-old, so a very active toddler, and somebody who also runs. I run very frequently, and I also like to walk. So my biggest concern with proposing this dog park in the middle of our neighborhood is absolutely the parking. I find it offensive to say that there's only, or to park at the Civic Center. We know people will not just park there. People are not willing to walk that far. They're going to want to park on Hawthorne Street North and then to visit the park. And so as somebody who's walking their dog or pushing the stroller out, even just walking oneself, that even just having one parked car on Hawthorne Street North, the visibility of that pedestrian to another car trying to walk by, it already decreases. So I don't think you're looking at it overall holistically. Also, a lot of us neighbors that live on Grey Rock, Hawthorne Street, and Greenway, we were never informed of this proposal. I only recently found out about it because of Facebook connections that a friend who does not live in Glenville told me about it. So I think your publication of it and communicating it to the neighborhood has been lackluster. And I spoke to Janet, and that was on Monday, and that was literally the only reason I know about this meeting today is because of Janet. So thank you, Janet, for speaking out about that and taking the time to contact me.
Thanks, Joanna. I appreciate that. Yes, we've put this out there for several weeks, actually more than several weeks now. It's been in the papers. We put it out. I've been talking about it on the radio show. We try to put it out on social media as much as we can. Obviously, it doesn't reach everybody, but certainly we do the best we can with that. And as far as parking on Hawthorne, having grown up here too and been in that neighborhood my whole life, going there, I know people have parked there. They park there all the time. I've parked there when you go to the Pembroke Glenville Association event every year, and it is pretty tight there. So I would definitely want that to be looked at and probably shorten it up a little bit. But a lot of the people that I spoke to, many of the people that have been reaching out in support of it, told me they walk there a lot. So I can't read all of the emails, but there were several, a lot of them, and a lot of the people walk there. So just like they do now with their dogs. So, but we hear you with the parking, and we appreciate your calling in today, but I just wanted to make sure you corrected a little bit on that. We have had this out. We have had this out there for probably a few months now in many different venues.
I think it's also just to remind everybody there was unfortunately someone who did pass away recently on the corner of Weaver and Hawthorne Street. So I think, although this dog park sounds great, I think the priority should really be the safety of people and putting more sidewalks in the neighborhood, and that should be the concern and the priority here, not this dog park.
Thank you, Joanne. Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And the incident you brought up, the tragedy we had there a few months ago, that was caused by a medical episode where the person was on the sidewalk and the person crossed the line and had a medical episode, and that was a tragedy. But the sidewalk had nothing to do with that. But I have met with your neighbors there about this. I've spoke with DPW. I don't know if anybody from DPW is here. They had some issues with it, but certainly I want to keep following up on that and see what else we can do there for the traffic calming, because that's an area that's of concern to you and to many of your neighbors. So we'll follow up again there. But I have walked with some of your neighbors there in that area. But thank you for mentioning that.
Okay, Mr. Greg Solomon.
Good morning, Greg.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Hi, I actually live across the street from the last speaker on the corner of Gray Rock and Greenway, dog owner. I just found out about this about 20 minutes ago, or not 20 minutes ago, right before the 10 o'clock start time. So I guess I want to speak for the people in the neighborhood that do own dogs. I think if you were to poll us, you wouldn't get the same reaction that you're saying that you've gotten from the people you've spoken to. I don't think there's any room here for more traffic or more parking. There's plenty of kids that are playing on the street, and having an official dog park, I think, will draw people to the area. And there's just no room to park, and there's no room for more traffic. So the dog owners here that live right nearby, we're doing just fine without an official dog park. And I think that you should make it a little more well-known and have more input from the people in our neighborhood. Because like I said, I just found out about it today.
Okay, thank you, Greg, appreciate it.
Constance, if you could please unmute and speak, thank you.
Hi, I'm Constance Umler. I live next door to Greg Solomon and across the street from Joanna. Are you all seeing a theme here? None of us knew. We all live on top of the area you're speaking about. I can also tell you that I found out about this exactly 1 week ago when we had a block party at my house, and there was only one person living on Hawthorne or Gray Rock who had advance notice of this. So although you're saying it was well publicized, I'm sorry, it was not. We are not
Constance,
living
I
in
have to
caves.
stop you there. It was in the paper. I don't know how many articles have been in the paper. We spoke about this. We did a first read. I've spoken about it in online. I've spoken about it on the radio.
Okay,
So I mean,
I'll let
it's
that
been
go.
it's
I'll
been
let that
out.
go.
But
I'll
I
let
have
it
to
go.
correct you
Let's
on that.
move on to the next point.
Okay, please do.
Fred, first off, you stated that the person that got hit by the car was on the sidewalk. There is no sidewalk, but that's another point. But the last point is, I'd like to know our zoning laws. I'm relatively new to Greenwich. I've only been here just under 3 years. What's your zoning laws? Because I know for Abendroth in Portchester, they had to make sure it was at least 100 yards away from the closest house. If you would like to create a dog run there that's 100 yards away from the closest house, go for it. You can't. The houses are on top of the area. And if you create a dog run there and there are parking problems, increased traffic, danger to those who are young and walking, you have to realize you will lower the values of all of our houses. And we will not take kindly to that.
Okay.
And lastly, Fred, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Why are you in such a hurry to do this when you can clearly see that the constituency that it most affects, whether or not we were sleeping at the wheel, don't know. I believe that the constituency that it affects should be spoken to so that you can really get a feel of just how vehemently opposed everybody is.
Okay, Constance, no, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me respond to a couple things. Number one, everybody is not vehemently opposed because it was probably 8-1, all the emails and calls that we've gotten. So that's not true. Number two, I'm not in a rush to do this. We do second reads, and we've been talking about this for months publicly. And number three, you brought up something that we heard back in 2000. When we first proposed a dog park on Grass Island, people said our home values are going to decrease. There's going to be a tax by dogs on innocent people walking. Kids will be afraid to walk home from school. We finally got the dog park in 2005. Not one of those things has happened. Not one. So all your concerns are absolutely well taken. We're certainly looking at them all. But we've heard that before, and we bend over backwards to make sure that every single thing is addressed. But none of those things that you mentioned, that were mentioned then, that you just mentioned now, ever occurred. None of them occurred. We've been through this before, and yes, we went to zoning. Zoning is looking at it because there's not a huge substantial change to the park right now. Planning and zoning has said they don't think there's any need for them and their involvement, but we're happy to bring the Portchester ordinance, which is in Portchester, not Greenwich. We'll bring that up to them later today, and so we'll address all of those concerns there. But I appreciate you taking time today to call in.
Yes, Timothy, Timothy Haran, please.
Yes. Hi, Fred.
Good morning, Tim.
You said something. You said something in the beginning that was particularly concerning to me, and it was, "I probably won't ever visit it."
No,
And
no, I didn't say that. I said I won't take my dogs there because I go other places with them and I walk in other preserves. I visit all of the dog parks. I visit all of the parks all the time. I won't take my dogs there because I don't have to.
okay, I heard that you said I probably won't ever visit it because I wrote it down.
No, with my dogs. With my dogs,
So
Tim.
please let that be reflected in the minutes. And I'd also like to understand how you conceptualize the downside risks of this proposed dog park.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
How do you conceptualize the downside risks? So what could go wrong? What are the risks that this presents?
Sure. So
And if you don't mind
Yeah.
doing them sort of by order of magnitude, that would be great.
Sure. Anytime you propose anything, Tim, we just don't go to the departments that are involved. We actually go to legal. We go to risk management. Our risk manager, Megan D'Amato, just won an award for the Risk Manager of the Year in the United States. So she makes sure that we keep out of trouble. We make sure that we look at every possibility that could go wrong. Even if it's far-fetched, we have to look at everything. The last thing you want is to propose something and then have something go wrong. So, and especially after somebody brings something up. So all of the concerns are looked at and will continue to be looked at. And again, so the minutes will reflect exactly what I said earlier, that of course I will visit. I'm in that area all the time, and I will always be there, and I'll go there if there's a park there. But I said I would not bring my own dogs there because we go other places. And most dog owners do the same thing.
Okay, so look, there's a recording. The minutes will reflect. What's accurate in the recording. Was you said that your dog won't be there or you won't be there, whatever.
Well, I will be
and
there,
then
Tim. I will be there. I will be there.
And then you said that
I don't know what
you
that
described the
matters for,
risks
but
from a legal. You don't know what?
I don't know why that matters so much, whether I'm there or not, but I will be there. But the minutes
because
are,
you're not
the minutes
not
are,
there,
the
then
minutes
you're
will be,
not
the
subject
minutes
to
will
the
be
risks,
available
Fred.
online for you to look at. They're always online, so. Okay. The minutes will be available online for you. I don't know why he's focusing on that thing, but anyway. So again, we've gotten lots of feedback from people, even in that area, that in fact, they originally came from that area, where people, we'd be down there and they'd come up at the Pembroke Glenville Association, or if I'm waiting for something at the Glenville Texaco, and they'd say, how come, we can't have a dog park here? We've been using it for a while and it doesn't look that nice. And so this idea actually came from that neighborhood. So it's, I'm sorry that 4 people who came on today did not hear about it, but I don't know how much more transparent we can be with things being out there, with second reads, constant articles in the newspaper, talking about it all the time. So
Fred, maybe if I can interject, maybe it might be worth it. I've had to do this for Central Middle School. I walked the whole perimeter and went to 70 houses. I'd be willing, I live in Glenville. I walk in that park several times a week. I'd be willing to go to all the adjacent neighbors and get their feedback if we want to put this off for another 2 weeks.
yeah, I have no problem doing that. Again, I'm totally supportive of it. I am not changing positions on this. I've heard this before in Greenwich when we did the first dog park.
I need the exercise.
And they delayed it so much, they delayed it 5 years when other towns had parks for decades before that. So I'm really concerned that I don't want it to be pushed off and pushed off and pushed off with things about, decreased home values and dogs running wild and attacking, when that doesn't happen. We know that. So I'm happy to push this off for a couple of weeks, certainly, and any of the concerns that these 4 people had will be addressed, and we'll, any other, calls. But we have a lot of people have reached out. So I was tipped off this morning. This was good. People were going to call in, which is great. So we love the feedback, and certainly we want it to be something that whatever goes there is something that everybody can enjoy. So thanks for the 4 people who joined us today and all those who have written in the past few weeks.
And meanwhile, can we post from Parks and Rec?
I just wrote it down.
Okay.
I wrote it
All right.
down. I have all my notes here. So that's one of
Fred,
them.
we have 2 more people who have come on to speak about this issue. Do we want to move on and wait 2 weeks, or do we want to recognize them?
Yeah, I'd like if they took the time to come in, I'd like to hear them.
Okay, yes, we can.
Okay, Mike Monaco?
Mike Monaco, please.
Good morning,
Hey,
Mike. Good morning, Mike.
you guys hear me?
We hear you.
All right, great. Sorry, using the new Zoom application here.
You're coming in well.
I just wanted to second what some of my neighbors had said. You know, I appreciate that you guys have put this out on social media, which not everyone is on, have put this out in the newspaper, which most people don't read these days. There's not been one flyer that has been put up in our neighborhood. I live directly across the street from the proposed dog park. Also have a dog that I use the dog park nearly every day. We're doing just fine without an official dog park, and I think we would just have appreciated a little bit more of update as this was recording, and also would love to see some plans as to what it actually entails before we could give full support for this. And I think that's a very reasonable request from the neighborhood.
It sure is. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. We'll try and get something up online
And I'll walk it to
ASAP.
everybody.
Thanks, Mike. We're going to move on. We've heard that all their comments have been recorded, and certainly we'll be addressing them. But certainly, if they wanted to send a note today, we'll get right back to them. I want to get on to the second one, which is the consideration of a proposed ordinance to create a fair rent commission. And I don't see if the Greenwich Time is here today, but I do.
Are they online?
We discussed this last time, and I asked them to please report this the way what we discussed, and that this was not a rent control. We weren't preventing people landlords from increasing rent. And what was the headline in the paper? Exactly the opposite. So I did reach out to John Brunick and Andy, who doesn't write the headlines. So anyway, hopefully we'll hold our breath, but hopefully they'll, report this the right way. But Demetria Nelson is here, our Commissioner of Human Services, and Patty Roberts, our chair. Thanks. Good morning, Demetria.
Good morning, everyone. So I don't know if there are any questions that were presented to you or emailed to you from the public. I did not receive any, but I just want to reiterate for everyone, the reason why we are engaging in this process is because as a municipality, we are required to develop an ordinance related to the Fair Rent Commission. And I would like to state that it is not rent control, it is not affordable housing, and it is not fair housing. Just want to know if you have any questions for me based on what we presented during the last meeting.
I do not. I have not gotten any feedback since our first read, but I again want to say thank you for all the work that your department, that the Board of Human Services has done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we appreciate our collaboration with the law department and the group of volunteers that came together for our work group to put together this ordinance. I would like everyone to know that there were a group of volunteers, a landlord, a renter, a few lawyers from the community, not only from our law department. So I'm very grateful for this town's participation in the development of this ordinance.
Well, thank you for your work on this. This has a potential really to straighten out squabbles and keep people out of court, which is the last place they need to be. So I think it has the potential to be a really good tool for that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep. And
Thank you, Laura.
ditto on the thanks. And yeah, the only feedback was misunderstanding what it really was based on the headline in the Greenwich Time, unfortunately. And we knew it was going to happen.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now we're going on to new business.
So we're going to vote?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And just so people understand the process, we vote and then it's going to go to the RTM.
Yes. Yes, this is the first stop. Okay, is there a motion about the proposed ordinance to create a fair rent commission.
Lauren Rabin, I motion that we approve the proposed ordinance to create a fair rent commission.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor? Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thanks. Okay, then we have one item under new business, which is the request for consideration of MI status municipal improvement for the Central Middle School project. And it's a first read, and we have our chairman, Tony Turner. Morning, Tony.
Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be here. If I could ask you to join me in looking at the memorandum that I sent to you, Mr. First Selectman, and your two colleagues on the board dated May 23rd, requesting the approval of the submission of municipal improvement status for Central Middle School to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I have just a few brief remarks, and then would certainly welcome any questions that you all might have. First of all, I'd like to talk about outreach. That seems to be a theme today, and we have worked very, very hard on outreach in two areas. One, we had a visioning meeting with immediate neighbors in February of this year. We have since had two community engagement forums that were extremely well attended. And we also had a perimeter neighbors meeting. And as Selectwoman Rabin said, she and a committee member literally knocked on doors. She had a new pair of sneakers she wanted to try out that day. But they literally went door to door and dropped flyers of an upcoming meeting. And we had approximately 15 perimeter neighbors at Central Middle School to talk about the project. We heard their concerns about traffic and so forth. So I just want to point out that outreach, we take that extremely seriously, and we have collectively now had 4 meetings. We probably will have a 5th before we begin to make final decisions on the design and the placement of the building on the site. The other is the timeline. On page 2 of the memorandum, these dates are still good. With construction starting approximately in June of next year, June 2024, with occupancy being in the spring or summer of 2026. These are for illustrative purposes only, but this is the current plan, barring any unforeseen circumstances that may come up. And then a couple of other topics, and I'll stop and take your questions. We do have a battery of documents on the Central Middle School website. So it's Greenwich Public Schools, Central Middle School, and we have a variety of documents there that should you want additional information, which is everything from minutes from our design review committee meetings to site plans and so forth, I would urge you to take a visit there if you would like to look at some additional documents. Ms. Rabin raised the idea earlier of talking about the project cost estimate. Well, that is, first of all, my least favorite topic for all the reasons that you know about. But I do want to bring you up to date. As you know, we had a range that came in from a project cost estimate much higher than we anticipated. We sent the professionals back to the drawing board, specifically CSG, our owner's rep, SLAM Collaborative, our architect, and Turner Construction, our construction manager at risk. And we asked them to do 2 things. One, give us your best thinking. Are there additional areas that we can reduce costs and still not affect the educational programs? Very critical. And then secondly, regarding building components, site plan and so forth, can you come back with a number? They did that. I think it's safe to say that the anticipated revised project cost estimate was still disappointing, and they raised an interesting fact, and that is that we are only 6 weeks away from finishing schematic design. And as you know, the level of detail that you get from schematic design versus conceptual design can be very, very significant. So they have, or they did, put together a recommendation to allow them to finish schematic design, which will be completed in approximately 6 weeks, and then give us an official revised project cost estimate. So that is the path that we're on now. We are anticipating significant 7-digit savings as a result of that 6-week additional work component. That does not affect the timeline that I highlighted earlier on page 2. We continue to be on track even with the anticipated additional work for schematic design. So with that, I'll stop there and answer any questions you all might have.
Thank you, Tony. Not to put you on the spot, but we all saw the original numbers, and obviously it was a lot more than most people thought. You said the new ones revised came back a little bit more lower, but still a little disappointing. What is, the original, between the 67 and the 83 million, and then we all thought the rumor was it was going to come around 89 or 90 million. Without, as you said, fundamentally changing the building, which would affect the educational experience for generations, right? We want to make sure that's a top-rated, top-flight school facility. Any chance at all of, in your estimation, of getting that down, significant below what we all saw?
I want to say define significant, and I can probably better answer that. I think
not 70, I know.
Yeah, I think the short answer is we really don't know. I think we anticipated much greater savings than the first attempt of the revised project cost estimate. Came in at about $3 million in savings. And we're like, wow, we were looking for more like 15, if not 20 million. Where is that? And I think it's safe to say, unless we possibly could find additional savings as a result of schematic design, as I was referring to earlier, I wish we had a number that I could share with you today to say the target is X, but we're just not there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great question.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll let Janet go.
Okay, thank you. I don't think it comes as any surprise to anyone. I'm on record. I am a strong supporter of this and all of our other school building projects. So I just want to say thank you to all the work that this committee has done.
Sure.
I don't have immediate questions, but I am a former mediator, and one of the most important questions one can ask is, what are the questions I should be asking? And I'll note, so Lauren has been a liaison to this committee. I see that there are other liaisons and building committee members attending today. So if there are questions that I should be asking, now is the time to come forward and let me know, because I'd be interested in hearing what that information is. Not just me, but this is our opportunity to get this out to the community. So,
Thank you.
so I see Claire just raised her hand. Yes, please.
Yes, Claire Kilgallen for the record. Yes, just wanted to add a little point, because I know Tony had a family obligation yesterday. We had a design review. And just to explain, and the building committee members understand this, and Lauren understands this, that the estimate was based upon narratives given at the time to get to that May 24th estimate. But since that time, the design has continued to progress and get refined. And so even as of yesterday, in the latest iteration, that square footage, which was priced at 134,000 square feet, is now down to about 118,000 square feet. So there's about a 15,000 square foot reduction, and we know that the architects have committed to refining that gross square footage. So as the process comes through, the design, just to clarify a point that Tony gave, this 6 week has 2 pieces to it. The 2 weeks, which is the design itself, And that's supposed to be coming to a close at the end of this month, followed by the estimating for that. So that those are the two pieces that bring you to the 6.
Okay. Well, thank you for breaking that down. Appreciate it, Claire.
I think Board of Select Person McQuiggan, one thing to ask about at this point going forward is how are we doing on grants, reimbursements, and rebates? We have identified 6 different, this is in addition to the traditional state OSCGR reimbursement. We have identified 6 additional potential sources of either rebates, reimbursements, or grants. Those will literally be millions of dollars. So we are highly confident of that. What we don't know is the number. So we're focusing on that now that we have a better grasp of some of the details on the site and the building, which of course has to be in your application for the additional sources of grants, reimbursements, and so forth. We're aggressively moving down that path of better identifying the exact requirements, making those applications and so forth, so that when we do finalize our funding number, hopefully that will be at the end of July, we'll know what that offset is. So that when we go to the BET Budget Committee and then go to the BET and hopefully the RTM after that, we'll know exactly to the dollar what the real funding request will be, including those grants and reimbursements and rebates.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
And I just wanted to thank the Building Committee and the Communications Subcommittee for putting together the materials. What we learned is that we don't have a template for providing or asking for municipal improvement status to the Board of Selectmen, but there is a template for planning and zoning. Right. So that was what we tried to do, is use to the degree possible what planning and zoning expects. And we do have a liaison from planning and zoning on the building committee who helped guide the process, because our job is to refer it to planning and zoning. That's the vote that we take. And this is a first read, so we can still collect public input, but our action is to refer it to planning and zoning, where there'll be way more opportunity for public feedback.
Yes.
Well, I have no more questions. Thank you so much for all your work there, Tony.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, Claire. All right.
Just for the committee's information, just to be clear, the next meeting is June 20th, the Tuesday, not June 22nd, a Thursday. We've adjusted that.
What date was that?
Tuesday the 20th.
Oh.
At 10, yes. Same room. Yes, same bad time, same bad channel.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Yes, Vin. Yes, sure, absolutely.
I think I heard Mr. Turner say that there is a time element here, like 6 weeks before the schematic design. And also he said that there's a number of things that, the number of grants they're looking at, which I guess they could apply for if a certain part of the building or a certain aspect of the building might apply for that grant. So I profess my ignorance here. Is net zero part of that mix? Is it still part of that mix? That's all I want to know.
Yeah, to get like a grant or reimbursement, yes.
Could we have Mr. Turner come back, and because he addressed the Energy Management Advisory Committee on this very question, and I thought it was very helpful.
Yes. The short answer is yes. Let me explain. Part of the next 6 weeks, as I was referring to earlier, I would categorize that work as additional design and analysis. And one of the components of that work will be a cost-benefit analysis, a payback analysis for this specific project. So we are looking at net zero as an option, obviously, or minimizing minimizing, if not eliminating, first cost in a net zero effort is the most ideal way to go about it, particularly noting the significant cost savings in maintenance and electric utility costs and so forth with the net zero application. So in short, we're now going down that path to do the cost benefit analysis. So when it comes time to make the decision regarding ME mechanical engineering and plumbing and also HVAC, that we can be fully informed on greenhouse gas usage with and without net zero, what the cost is going to be with and without net zero. So in short, yes, and that's what we're doing about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the question. And thanks to Steph for being here today, Steph Cowie, Building Committee member. Laura Erickson, our BET member, would like to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. I just
Morning.
wanted to rise and support. Oh, of course, Laura Erickson. I'm a BET member. I should note that I am not the liaison to the building committee, but since November, I've attended as many meetings as possible, given the size of this project and the importance to the community. And I just wanted to voice my support for the referring to P&Z. I think that the building committee, the design review committee, the whole team of professionals has worked really hard on the site plan. They've made adjustments along the way after receiving community input from the neighbors, but I think it's really time to get before the P&Z and start the formal process. So I'm all for this. Divorced from the budget discussion, which is going to be another discussion, but that should not get in the way of moving forward with P&Z. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Very good. So we will revisit that in a few weeks. Now we have, before appointments and nominations, public comment period. Anybody? Do you want to say?
Public comment?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Ben DeMarco for a second.
I'll invite Bob to come up whenever he wants to. Bob and I are members, Vince DeMarco for the Active Transportation Task Force, and Bob D'Angelo, of course, is my, we're joined at the hip, whatever. Anyway, so regarding the sharrows, we wanted to make some comments about the sharrows, which were already approved. This committee approved, and the Active Transportation Task Force was supportive of that all along, that even though we knew and we know, and I want to point this out for the public, that we're really late in the game for doing sharrows. It's something that many communities have done over the last 20 years and now don't do anymore. So we're playing catch up. And we knew that, we know that, when we know that they really need to be used in the right places. But what we're concerned about in the task force, and we're going to continue to discuss this with DPW at the table, is that there is something past that. In other words, the sharrows, yes, awareness and all of that. It doesn't necessarily make it safer for people to be riding on the roads, but it is awareness for drivers to understand that there will be cyclists there. It's another tool in the toolbox. However, we want to know and we want to make sure that we can bring forward some sort of a plan, propose a plan to move things forward. Not just with sharrows. We would like to get rid of sharrows one day and actually build protected facilities for all active transportation users, whether it be bike, scooter, wheelchairs, whatever it is, whatever those modes are. So we just wanted to bring that to light, that while we support that, we want to make sure that it's not the last step, and we can't just say the roads are too narrow, this is the best we can do, go home. It's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable anywhere in the country or even the world now. We need to move in that direction to give active transportation some space to be able to operate. Bob, you want to mention anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Lauren? Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, Vin and I spoke before the meeting, and my feedback is, it's a KPI and we're open to, what should we be looking at? And then, I just shared with him, it has to be something that we can measure. So whatever we think is the right, KPI, the team could look at it and we just have to be able to measure it.
If I could just add, KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator.
Right.
It's part of our POC, yet another
POCD,
acronym. Plan of Conservation and Development. And these are measures to look at progress on
As
various.
we talked about,
Yes.
Lauren and I spoke about earlier, as she said, is that metric, Sharrows, is an old metric. And the KPI is kind of it's been around a little while, right, those indicators. So we'll be making some sort of a recommendation to update that to what we really should be doing. It's a good step, but we have to quickly ramp up to be able to, because you're going to get criticism. There isn't any question. When people see the Sharrows there really needs to be some education about not only what they are, but why they're there and why are we doing it now. So we'll discuss that with DPW and the Active Transportation Committee, and we'll try to come up with something, maybe even a public informational piece that explains a little bit more about what Sharrows are all about. Okay?
Yeah, one thing then, if you mentioned our roads here, which are narrow, and so if you have communities that have the same characteristics as Greenwich that have done these lanes, like we just had the $270,000 grant for between Greenwich and Stanford to share to get some type of a path between Binney and Bacuzzi Park and Stanford. Any type of thing where they're doing it close to here with under similar circumstances, it provides a blueprint. So that would be very helpful to us and to DPW.
We're looking at communities all the time. In fact, Bob went even further. He went up to New Britain and did some training up there and found out what they were doing up there. And they started off with Sharrows. They moved quickly into bike lanes and into off-road facilities, protected facilities. That was their goal. But a lot of communities started with Sharrows, but many communities now don't even do that. They go directly to what it is they want, what the community wants. This certainly is going to be an RTM thing, I think, one day. It's going to be figured out what the town actually wants. The POCD makes some recommendations, but not specifically about active transportation, really directly. So maybe we're moving towards the next POCD where it really will be clear what people, how the town should progress and how people want it to happen.
Just say one thing.
Sure, thank you.
To what you said, hi, Fred.
Hey, Bob.
One thing that's out there that we could do that's pretty simple to do, but it would move the needle is a lot of the roads are wide enough to where when we go through repaving basically and they paint a stripe is to do a little traffic calming where you just narrow down the active roadway and you give a little bit more space on what we would call a shoulder to a pedestrian or a biker. You mark it with a white stripe. A lot of towns do that. That's what New Britain did as they went on their evolution from Sharrows to protected lanes. Any areas where you had roadway space, and it's a good thing to slow cars down. That's one of the dangers in Greenwich. You and I mean, we're from Greenwich. We rode all over. There were no helmets back then because helmets weren't invented. Nothing's changed now. What has changed is more cars, faster cars, bigger cars, and cell phones distracted driving. So that's one thing to think about is when you do repaving jobs like we're doing Forest Avenue now from the Civic Center, especially for that, it'd be really, really great to link the Civic Center to Binney Park to try to, when they do redo that, is to make as big a shoulder as possible to mark that correctly, to imply some safety for pedestrians and bikes, basically.
Well, that's a great point. Before we actually have that project completed, if you reach out to DPW, I'll be happy to meet you down there ASAP and see if we can do that there. That makes a lot of sense. It does. I love the fact that when you narrow the road, it does perform some
Yeah,
type
no,
of
it's
traffic
traffic
calming.
calming. I mean, everybody wins on that. You know, it's just much, much safer. And as we know, I mean, Connecticut is is not a good state in terms of pedestrian and bicycle safety. It's really not. The other thing for Mr. Turner, I think it's great what they're doing. I mean, I know that they'll come up with a good plan. And I went to the first town meeting. Basically, is they're studying a lot of things, and you know, pedestrian, bicycle transportation to and from Central is a really great opportunity, especially in the Coscob area, to make it safe for kids to ride their bike to school that are close. You know, even as you talked about trail going through Pomerantz Park, there's a lot of swath of, you know, Bible Street or Coscob or that area where they could cut the corner, not have to go up Orchard Street. They could cut through the park if we had a trail, or they could ride their bike to Central. Just things like that, basically. That's part of the answer here.
Okay, no, I appreciate it. Well, yeah, if you want, we'll set something up with DPW. ASAP.
Take a nice day and
Yeah,
ride around.
I'll be looking. Thanks, Vin. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Okay, appointments or nominations?
No, try to handle those later today.
Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Lauren Rabin, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor? Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Barbara. Thanks, everybody. Thanks.